PsiOps Battleground's Moon is the latest Grandmaster Nightfall added to D2, and it's a beast of a GM, I'd say. The adept weapon for this week is the Braytech Osprey rocket launcher, and while it may seem underwhelming when comparing it to Hothead or Apex Predator, I will say it could be worth farming on the sole fact that it's a void rocket launcher, and those are lacking quite a bit right now. It's also unique in being able to roll cluster bombs along with a damage perk, so there's that. On to team composition and mods. For this GM, I believe the top two candidates are going to be Well of Radiance Warlocks and Nightstalker Hunters. Both of them obviously have their strengths, but in particular, they allow you to set up and spawn kill certain waves of enemies or champions, or just outright allow you to put massive damage on the boss to push it to the next phase for some breathing room. The final spot can be another Warlock, a Hunter, or a Strand user such as a Berserker Titan for added woven mail protection. The footage you'll be seeing is my retrofit Gerfalcon's build for my Hunter, which allows me to constantly pump out volatile rounds on all enemies. My teammate Toes was running a Warlock with the new Cenotaph Mask Helmet, coupled with Divinity to give us easy debuffs on champions, while also pumping out heavy ammo for us. Finally, we had Dado running Strand Titan to give us woven mail on command, as well as suspending targets, including champions. And then in terms of weapons, it comes down to Barrier and Unstop for this, so that means your usual suspects will come out. For Barrier, you have things like Arbalist, Wish Ender, or Freeze Tech, such as Riptide, Agriceptor, or Conditional Finality, and for Unstoppable Champions, really there's only two choices, either Glaive or Hand Cannons. The upside to using a Glaive is that you can run double special and get extra heavy ammo bricks on the floor easily, and while running a Hand Cannon, the upside is basically you have a primary to blink regular adds with, so the choices are yours, really. Heavy choices all come down to what you're playing for your class. For example, I ran Retrofit because I am a Hunter, and it works amazingly with my build. However, you can't run that on something like a Warlock or Titan because you just cannot abuse it quite as well. Whereas Warlocks and Titans can easily run something like a Linear Fusion to use Cataclysmic or maybe Briar's Regret instead, and still put on good damage on the boss. For mods, this is a little tricky and a bit dumb, as your framerate could come into play in your choices. For gamers who love to play at high FPS, I suggest rocking one Arc Resist, one Void Resist, and then one Concussive Dampener for your mods. And if you're someone who plays on low FPS or is struggling at the boss in particular, you can turn your frame rate down and use multiple Arc Resist mods to survive getting one shot by Savathun in the boss encounter. Like I said, it's a bit dumb that frames come into play here, but it is what it is. People who play at high frames, you're going to get one shot either way, unless you're in a Well of Radiance, so just play accordingly with one of each mod, as mentioned before. Now for the strike itself, quick PSA here, there is a bug that is ruining runs and giving you gold rewards despite killing all champions. However, there is seemingly a fix or a workaround to this. At the beginning of the strike, don't walk forward to the point of spawning the Hive Lightbearer. Instead, just slowly farm out the regular enemies in front of you and wait for the objective to update. Afterwards, you can walk forward and proceed as normal. Why does this work? I have no clue, but I thought it's worth mentioning to let people know how to get platinum. Moving along the strategies for the strike, the opening portion is fairly straightforward. You move up, enemies spawn, you kill enemies, then you move up, rinse, repeat. It's worth noting that the barrier champions spawn on the bottom floor, while the unstopped ogres will spawn on the top staircase sections, to look out for them. Additionally, as you progress towards the Lightbearer, there will be a tomb ship above them. You can avoid dealing with the tomb ship by not pushing too far ahead and letting it aggro on your Cabal helpers instead, and then focusing on the adds afterwards. For the Ritual Disruption section, coordination here is king. The encounter operates based on when you have dunked moats, or burdens, whatever you want to call them, and how many you've dunked in total. For example, when you start the encounter by dunking your first moat or burden, first of all, turn around. Second of all, a buried champion will spawn to your left, and an unstoppable ogre will spawn to your right. Note that sometimes the ogre can jump to the middle. Once you've taken care of them, your next objective is to reach 4 burdens total by killing wizards around the room as they respawn periodically. I would recommend getting 1 or 2 people doing this job, particularly a hunter who can easily use camo to get out of trouble. Once you've gathered up 3 moats, it's time to dunk. When you reach 4 out of 12, the room will then spawn in 2 Hive Light Bearers and a Shrieker in the top center of the map, plus a bunch of knights as well. Our team dunked middle first, so the Light Bearers spawn to the left and the right respectively, although this might be different if you dunk somewhere else to start instead of the middle. As soon as you hit 4 out of 12, though, you should instantly target the Shrieker and down it to avoid any trouble afterwards. After that, it's time to rotate to either the left or the right side of the room that you haven't done yet. By doing this, you will funnel enemies into one side of the room for the most part, allowing you to get huge tether combos off as well as setting up your next dunk site. Once you've cleared the big boys out of the way, start collecting motes again from the wizards. This time, you can coordinate to have one person grab 3 and another to grab 1. Then, dunk all 4 together, and once you reach 8 out of 12, you'll be greeted with another Shrieker in the center of the room, as well as an Unstoppable champion and a Barrier champion next to you. Your best case here would be killing the Shrieker first while having someone to stun the champions and picking them off afterwards once the Shrieker is down. In my team's run, we stayed on the left side of the room, left from the first dunk site, so the right of the room if you're standing at the entrance to be exact, and we downed everything from this angle as you're seeing on screen. After the Shrieker and champs are dealt with, there will be some more regular adds coming at you, Thrall, Acolytes, and a few orange bar ogres of the non-unstoppable variety. Take care of them, and once you do, it's time to gather your last 4 motes. Once you have the motes, dunk them into the final soup bowl. Yeah, let's go with that. The encounter is then over, and mostly everything will despawn, although sometimes an Acolyte or 2 remains, so just be careful. Next up, we're going straight to the final boss encounter. In this room, there'll be a few key things to keep in mind. First, every time the boss appears in this room, she'll be spawning adds with her. The first wave will be in the center of the room, and the initial wave is 2 Boomer Knights with a ton of Acolytes. This is where something like Tether is huge, as you can tether both the enemies on the floor, as well as the boss as she floats to you. Additionally, if you have a well plus tether combo on your team, you can outright blast through the boss's HP, while the tether kills most, if not all, the enemies attached. Once the boss has teleported away at 2/3 health, this is where the fun begins. Savathun's Reflection will now hit the field, along with an Unstoppable and a Barrier champion down the center of the room, same spot as the Acolytes before. If you have a well ready, this is the time to use it. Try to kill at least one of the champions while you have it active, otherwise run for your life, as Savathun can easily one-shot all of you in an instant. Did I mention frame rate damage is dumb? Whether you took out one or both champions, the plan from here on out is to kill Savathun's Reflection as fast as possible using the Arc Lances. Additionally, a huge tip here would be making sure that you're ready to use Blink with your Arc Lance at any time you see Savathun shoot in your direction, as it allows you to blink sideways and easily get away from her lightning. In case you're wondering how to use Blink in this form, it's your grenade button while using the Lance. After Savathun is taken care of, it's phase 2 of the boss fight. This time around, the boss returns, but the enemies do not spawn in the center. Instead, they will come out of the top corners of the arena respectively via tomb ships. Take them out before engaging with the boss again. After you've lowered the boss's health again, Savathun phase 2 starts, and it doesn't bring an Unstoppable and a Barrier champion with her this time. Instead, you get a second copy of Savathun's Reflection, because one wasn't bad enough to one-shot you, I guess. Additionally, a regular yellow bar ogre spawns in the center as well, and for this portion of the fight, I highly recommend that you and your fire team focus on one Savathun at a time. Our team focused on the left one in this case, and then we team fired her with the lances until she was down. Additionally, you can also use the lances to fight off Acolytes that might be left over, or even beam down the ogre in the middle if you have to. In any case, down one of the Savathun clones as fast as you can, and once you do, stay on that side of the arena. The reason for this is because the remaining copy of Savathun will not be able to hit you with her lightning attack across the map. It simply just does not have the range to do so. Meanwhile, you can basically aimbot the Arc Lances across the map to hit her slowly but surely. After you've downed both copies of Savathun, it is time for the third and final phase of the boss fight. In this portion, it's only the final boss and some regular hive enemies to fight you, so if you have a Well of Radiance and or Tether combo saved up for this part, feel free to use it now and try to melt down the last 1/3 of the boss's health, and when you do, congrats, you have completed GM PsiOps Battlegrounds Moon. Wow, that is a mouthful. And that is my guide to this Grandmaster. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, a like, a comment, or a sub would be appreciated. It does help the channel. Hopefully this helps you clear the GM for your Conqueror. And that's all for now. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.
One shot.
Nice. Little sub 19.
Yeah, that second phase could have probably gone a little bit faster, but yeah.
I got a rocket! Yeah!